Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cranked and Ranked. We had to take a week off. We're going to take another week off after this. There'll be a little bit of space, but I promise you that if there are any other breaks, it won't be my fault. But but we're back. And if you're new to this podcast / YouTube show, we are a show where we rank discographies of many bands and do many other rankings. In general, we normally are ranking, which is why we're called Cranked and Ranked. And we're back on to do another band discography this episode. And I'm your host, Old Head. With me, as always, Mr. Eddie Sparxx.
Hi, how are you?
That probably didn't get picked up in the video. I've noticed that Zoom gets stupid with like cutting out sound. I'm like, quit fucking with me, Zoom.
I did wonder what you were doing there. It just kind of looked like this.
Oh, I was doing the crowd noise. So in the podcast, the podcast version, it's probably gonna be audible. Sorry, guys. We're professionals. Anyway, So today we have a long one ahead of us. That's what she said. Because we're going to be doing the entire full-length album discography of the quintessential 90s pop punk band, Green Day, which is the first full-on pop punk band we've done. Mm-hmm. We did do the Misfits, which they put out a couple albums with what's his name?
Graves.
Yeah, Michael Graves that are absolutely just pop punk albums. But this is the first full-on pop punk, and I remember distinctly though when we first started this podcast, fucking 4 years ago or 3 years ago. Shit, it's been a while. 3 years ago.
We're into our fourth.
We're starting the fourth year, so it was 3 years ago. Math. And I remember having a discussion where you talked about how you didn't really like pop punk, like that was a thing that you weren't really into, but you've since warmed to it, right?
Well, as time goes on, tastes mature, and my hatred of pop punk at the time came from a place of back when I'd first gotten into rock and metal. Essentially, when I first started watching the music channels like Kerrang and Scuzz, they had a lot of variety going on. They'd be like, metal hour, thrash hour, pop punk hour, new metal hour, like all of these little blocks of all sorts of different stuff, 80s versus 90s, 2000s versus 2010s, all this sort of stuff. Until one day I woke up and it had just become a 24-hour pop punk new metal live stream, and anything that didn't come out between the years of about 97 and 2003 were just not shown. And it got to be real. I got real burnt out on it. Oh, and like sort of emo metalcore stuff, right? So that really soured my taste for it a little bit at the time, because it was oversaturated for me. It was just being
also
all that stuff
it got very bland in the early 2000s too. Maybe even the late 90s, but it really became, bands that just played this poppy style of punk music, and then all of a sudden it became dudes that also were wearing some kind of a costume, like they had to dress like punkers in a certain way, and it got really like are these real bands or are these corporate creations where they just said, spike up your hair, get some tattoos, do the lip thing, the snarly lip thing like Billy Idol, and write songs about how you're not going to conform, and then that's it.
Yeah, for me at the time, I viewed the whole genre as, my girlfriend broke up with me, and then
that came from the Blink-182 side of things, really.
Yeah, but then that kind of bled its way into metalcore, and then you had this like thing
Yeah.
of like, I'm starting to hear more interesting bands come out again, but I just remember right at the time I got into heavy metal, the exact type of that sort of thing that I didn't like was in style.
Yeah.
And, we've all got our tastes, but I remember like I was a weird one because I liked heavy music, but I didn't like the kind that was in style.
Yeah.
But, I also didn't like pop at the time. So I was either, well, at my school, you were either a chav or a emo. There were no metalheads barring me and
Yeah.
a couple people I've managed to turn into me light. So, yeah, so I did have some bitterness towards the genre, but much like my opinion on new metal, pop punk, I have forgiven in the last couple years. So
Yeah,
I'm all for it.
Yeah, you start to see the bands that were genuinely good and then the ones that were the also rans. But it happens with every big genre of music that gets super popular.
Yeah.
So this will be an interesting one. Before we go on, though, I want to give a quick shout out over on my Facebook group, which is called Old Heads, Bangers, and Beyond. A gentleman named Eric Smith created a cranked and ranked bingo card.
Yeah.
And I printed it. Well, my wife printed it out for me. My wife even managed to figure out how to go to where he created it and then enter in the details to where you can randomize it. And you can even apparently invite other people. You can invite people to play. So,
oh shit!
Eventually, maybe if people are into it out there, comment or email me and let me know. We could do a thing where we send cards out to everybody, and for a particular episode, everybody can play.
Yeah.
I've already been playing because one of the squares is Eddie leaves a T out of the middle of any word, and you said metal several times, so I went ahead and did a mark right there. But it's got everything from,
Well, he made two actually. He did a red one and a blue one.
Well, this is the first one that I've printed out, but it has things like: are we going to mention Metallica? Is there going to be a D's Nuts joke? Are we going to mention Wayne's World? Are we going to mention GTA? Vinyl? Are we going to say peanut butter platypus? These don't count.
I was going to say some dude out there is right now just checking them all
off.
Nope.
Stop remixing albums. Yeah, and I like some of them are like just things that we normally say. One of them is we're getting into Banger Central here.
Yeah.
So it's great that he did it because it's so hilarious, and I'm like, yeah, this is a fun thing that we could play. So today I'm going to play it while we're doing this. I'm going to, nice. if it comes up, but don't force it. Let's not force it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because there are some on here that they're definitely not going to come up. Like how is Toto going to come up in this episode? They might.
Just did.
Who knows? Anyway,
well, at the end of the day, that's
is that there at the end of the day?
If it's not in the second one, it's on another one.
Yeah. So that's super fun. You can go. Actually, I posted it on all of my social media. So if you're following me in any of those, you can go take a look at the first one. The second one I didn't post, but that one's funny as well. It could be a thing where I just put up both of them and you guys take your pick. Which card do you think is going to be the one that's going to win this time?
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, thanks Eric Smith for that, and now we can jump into this lengthy thing because it's 13 albums to rank for Green Day. Normally, a band with 13 albums, we would devote 2 episodes, but I really thought look, I know our audience. And I think we're pushing it with even 1 episode of Green Day. So let's just try to get it all out of the way, and let's be energetic and quick with it, just like Green Day are with some of their albums. Some of their albums are entirely too long. But as usual, let's do this quickly. We talk about where Green Day came into our lives. Mine, oh God, this is I'm gonna try to do this without being a fucking long-winded douchebag here. In high school, I had a group of friends. We were all into metal. They were in a metal band that I really liked. We were people discovering metal, but we were also into grunge and all this other stuff. But we were at certain points by like, around 1993, we were just getting into death metal and trying to find the most aggressive stuff we could find. And then I remember coming to school one day and we had a few friends that all of a sudden were listening to punk. And I was just like, I feel like we were evolving in this direction. You guys just now went down in this direction, because like where I felt we were going musically was like climbing the extreme ladder or the batshit crazy ladder, whatever we could find. And they're like, oh, now we're going to listen to the fucking Ramones. I was just, and I wasn't on board at first. And it took me a long time. I ended up being that one last guy in my group of friends that was still like, do you hear the new Metallica? Oh, Metallica. Shit.
There we go.
Crossing out Metallica on the list.
All I was thinking then was like you still like trying desperately to hang on to the extreme metal thing, and I was just thinking then like you doing Basket Case in John Tardy's voice, like, sometimes I give myself the creeps.
But I liked a lot of different stuff, so I was okay with getting into things like punk rock, but a lot of my friends all seemed like the kind of people, and maybe this was just young people in general, that when they got into something new, they said fuck off to everything else.
Yeah.
And I never did that. So we were getting into like Cannibal Corpse and stuff, I still bought like the first Bush album when it came out. Like, it's like, like I was all over the place. But and I remember my friends invited me to go on a church retreat. It's not very important to the story. We were just all together going to a thing. One of them went to a church. They had a retreat. We went. We wore all black in our death metal shirts, and we acted like assholes the entire time we were at the church retreat. But I remember in the van or however we were getting there, the drummer of said band that I was friends with, he had the new Green Day album, which I think had just come out or something, but it was Dookie at the time. So it was 94, right? And I just remember listening to it in the car or wherever we were riding in, and just thinking to myself, like, these are really catchy, well-written songs with a lot of really good energy. Yeah. The band's really tight. I like this. And so I quickly, bought the album for myself and became a Green Day fan for a little while. I fell off in the early 2000s and I've never really found my way back, but that's my history with Green Day. That was a long story for nothing. How about your turn?
I was always, they were always there, just the hits really, but I'd always hear Green Day with, the rock music channels on.
Yeah.
Every 8 or so songs you'd get a Green Day song. So and I'll even admit, even at the height of my pop punk hatred era, I still had a soft spot for Green Day. I didn't want to admit it, and I never ever let anybody know. But whenever Basket Case came on, I was like, I'm listening.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, with that, I came into this knowing the hits and no deep cuts. I'd never listened to a full Green Day album all the way through. I just knew the big songs.
Prior to this, I had heard every Green Day album up to 21st Century Breakdown. That's the point where I really fell off, and I had only heard like random songs. And I had never heard the Uno Dos Tres trilogy at all. So that was brand new to me. Anyway, so boom, 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 boom. I don't know why I did that drum thing, but there you go. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and also cross off Old Head Fiddles with Beard, because I know I'm going to do it. I probably have already done it 20 times.
Well, so, I'm reaching the stage now because I'm growing my goatee out to see what I can do. And I've reached the beard fiddle stage myself. So
I love it.
Just be two like scholars with our big beards teaching people shit.
Sit down, folks. You're going to learn something. All right. So let's get into this. We got 13 albums. We got 13 albums. And let's just get to it. Green Day album ranking, as usual. I throw it over to Eddie Sparxx to start us off with his number 13 Green Day album.
Okay, I'm not gonna waste any time here. My number 13 is Father of All Motherfuckers.
Oh, okay.
And my thoughts are I I I got about halfway through their discography and then I thought to myself, this thing is crying out for me to check out. I need to know what this is because it looks weird. It's got a zoomed in the fucking artwork is a zoom in on the American Idiot cover with a unicorn puking a rainbow onto it, and it's got Green Day ironically scrawled in red. Um, so my first thoughts were when I stuck this on, and this is someone who loves most of what is here
Okay.
on all other albums. My first thoughts were, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I don't think you were alone in that. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Now, normally, like I would enjoy an off the wall shift towards something way out of left field.
Yeah.
The problem comes when it sounds. I'm going to be honest. They somehow made a 26-minute album feel like an hour for me. You know how
Dang.
you know how I've been saying
Watch what
shorter
you say.
albums.
Billy Joe's got a temper. He's gonna get one fucking minute. Have you seen that video? One, you're
Yeah,
gonna give me
yeah,
one. That's one of my favorite videos in the world.
yeah.
Like
It
that.
sounds a
I
complete meltdown.
like going on record. Like as much as I'm not really a huge fan of this band, like for some reason, like Billy Joe just seems like a dude. I'm like, I like that guy's cool because he
Yeah,
seems like he's like. I feel like I relate to him in a lot of ways, but in other ways, I'm like he seems like an unpredictable kind of dude, and I kind of like that. He's like that's what a rock star is. You're supposed
yeah,
to do shit like that.
yeah. I see my inevitable meltdown looking something like that. Um, but yeah, but yeah, like here's the upsetting thing for me is that while I respect a good creative shift up completely,
Yeah.
when Father of All started, all I could think running through my head was, "You need a car that's built tough like you." The new my Batsu, and
It does have a what passes for rock music today kind of feel, like commercial, like it's almost it's hard to explain, but yeah, it does have that quality to it.
yeah, it's got the distorted car commercial vocals, and I immediately knew. I was like, please, I don't want this to continue through the whole thing. And then you get Fire Ready Aim. While shorter in length, the car commercial vibes continue. Um, oh yeah, is again a more car commercial music sort of thing. Meet Me on the Roof. Not sure if that's wise right now, seeing as I want to jump off it. I was a teenager.
Dang.
Cringe title. I'm gonna gush about how much I love their '90s stuff, but I this album really put me through the ringer. Um, Stab You in the Heart. If I said that I didn't enjoy their like '50s rock and roll influence, I would be lying. But when it comes to Green Day, this sonic choice that they chose for this album just ain't it for me.
Okay.
Sugar Youth, Junkies on a High, Take the Money and Crawl, pretty much feel the same. And then Graffitia, or Graffitia, or yeah. Well, thank God it's over. You may recall in the last episode, and I'm trying not to be a smug asshole about this because they're a successful band and they're free to experiment with whatever the hell they want to. But you may recall in the last episode, I said that the Red Hot Chili Pepper albums didn't need to be almost 20 songs long.
Yeah.
I somehow feel like this album didn't need to exist.
Oh,
But,
dang.
like, I just feel like it's such a. I know they're capable of such greatness, and I feel like there are songs here, but the execution just really didn't mesh with my ears.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for this to be, did they come out as a bit of a self-aware thing, or is it like a legit thing? I sound so horrible right now. I'm not used to being this critical, but
This is fun.
like, yeah. I was thinking to myself, this album for me is in the same league as Generation Swine, in one of those albums where I know wholeheartedly that unless I have a gun to my head, I'm not revisiting this album, you know. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
which is a shame because it always pains me to put a band's most recent outing as my bottom pick.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of stuff here. Um, if anything, I appreciate its bold shift to something completely different.
Hmm.
However, my ears like what they like, and they didn't like that. So over to you.
Okay. So that is not my number 13.
Okay.
I liked it more than you. But so we talked about this before. They did a trilogy of albums called Uno, Dos, and Tre, which that alone is enough for me because Tre's the
Yeah.
drummer is Tre Cool, and I just love the fact that it's Uno, Dos, Tre, and then the last one has
Yeah.
Tre's face on it, and I'm like, okay, that's a dumb enough joke that they went that far to create 3 albums for that. That's good. I like that. But we were talking about how in both of our rankings, those 3 albums are right next to each other. So we're going to put them all together. So my joint 13, 12, 11 is the albums Uno, Dos, Tre. On number 13 is the last one, Tre, from 2012. They all came out in 2012.
Okay.
And I'm going to be real brief because there's not a lot to say about these albums. This is the 3rd album of the trilogy. And the only thing I like about it is the title because it's Tre, and it makes it this album has to exist for the joke to work. And the joke is the best part of the whole fucking thing. Number 12, Dos, also from 2012, second of the trilogy. At this point, I had never heard these albums before. I thought it was going to be a Kiss solo album affair. So I thought Mike was going to be the vocalist on the second album and Tre would be the vocalist on the third album. They didn't even fucking do that. It's just 3 generic, uninspired, boring, rehash Green Day albums. And this is the number 2 of it. Just another album of the same thing with no standout tracks. In fact, when I got to the middle of this album, I was like, you know what? This day and age with our technology, these albums sound like if somebody put Green Day into an AI and then had them make an album, it would sound like Uno, Dos, and Tre. So, which brings us to number 11, which is Uno. The reason why this one comes in first out of the 3 is simply because it was the first one. And I was like, well, I didn't know it was going to totally suck at this point. And so, trilogy of albums. Now, some people would probably be happy because they came back to like their straightforward pop punk style stuff. Because prior to this was
they've done a couple rock operas, hadn't they? With
was Revolution Radio. I think Revolution Radio was after this. So so they had done the couple rock opera type things, and now they're back to this. So this may have been a breath of fresh air to some people, but not to me. It's not anything new. In fact, at this point, there's song/riff blur. Not only with their own stuff, but with other bands that I'm like, oh, fuck, I think I've already heard this song before. And at this point, they started to come across as a pop punk Halloween costume of themselves, where it's just nothing, like literally nothing about those albums was interesting to me, except for the fact that, oh, they went back to doing the straightforward pop punk thing. And then once that part got tiresome, you just went, well, there's literally nothing here. And and I know, and the thing is, like, I like this band, and I think that Billy Joe has the capability of writing more interesting stuff. I think sometimes bands like this are backed into a wall and they think they know what they need to do. And so if they had taken this triple album idea and went batshit crazy with it, with each one having a different vocalist or even a different primary songwriter, like and so maybe some of them like have songs that are completely like anything they've ever done before, to where they would end up being like the Kiss solo albums, where some people love them, some people hate them, but they all have their own little identity. That would have been great, but they didn't even do that. It's literally just 3 albums of the same shit, and none of it is very good. And so that's my 11, 12, 13. Uno dos tres. Boom.
Okay. So my 12 through 10 is Uno Dos Tre.
Nice.
My
This worked out perfectly.
Yeah, so my number 12 is, let me find it. It is Dos because yeah, this is part 2 of the 2012 Uno Dos Tre trilogy. Um and I think it could be something to do with the fact I got halfway into this and thought, Jesus Christ, I'm only halfway here. Whereas where whereas the other two albums marked, oh, this may be interesting, or thank God that's wrapped up. But I found this one to be the least interesting of the three. So See You Tonight is this short opening ditty. Fuck Time.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's going to read through all of the tracks on all 3 of these albums. These are not short. None of these are short.
No, no, and I suffered for your entertainment, you fuckers. So yeah, like I say, Fuck Time is a nice subtle track. Stop When the Red Lights Flash, cool rhythm to this one, and then it was already at this point. I'd already done this for Uno. I'd already started writing the same thing for every track pretty much early on because I thought to myself, I need a way out because I am not.
Take it. I will allow you a way out. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So I've got Lazy Bones is kind of alty punk. Wild One is kind of alty punk. Make Out Party, standard rocking chord sequence. Stray Heart. All I could think with the rhythm was "Are You Gonna Be My Girl" by Jet. Like,
oh God.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that's an era of rock that I have deemed CBBC rock, and what that means is it was played during ads on children's BBC music because it was rocking enough to get the kids going, but it was tame enough to not scare the parents.
And that's and honestly, that's still what is considered rock music in the popular music world these days. Like we have not grown from that, and that really bums me out because that's some of the worst music ever made. All of those bands, like not all of them. There are some shining, lights from it, but it's very small. A very small amount of that music is good, but it's still gotten to the point now where you're like, oh, we're a rock and roll band, but it's literally the most light, like barely even rock music. They barely cranked the distortion on the guitars, and the vocals are way louder than anything else, and it's just.
Yeah, like I think that's why it took me a little bit to get into rock music, because back when I was a kid, that was the big rock stuff, and I was like,
yeah,
where is this like heavy stuff? Because I went back and I listened to, this is one of the most negative episodes we've ever done, which is
for now, we're gonna get more positive later.
But like, I went back and I listened to that song because I was like, is there something from that era that I'm missing? And I listened to it and I was like, this just sounds flat to me. Like it's like rock with all the parts I like removed from it, And I don't want to be a prick, but
it's the fucking music industry's fault too. And not only that, I don't know if I can blame this on older bands or if it's still just the labels and record companies, because I've noticed that anytime I've gone to see an older, very successful group, like a good example is going to see Alice in Chains. And so a band that has a huge draw, is older. They always seem to have a young band that plays before them, but they always are dudes in tight bell bottoms with a female vocalist who is trying to be some sort of what's the fucking name I'm thinking of? God damn it. Anyway, never mind. But it's all this sort of not a hodgepodge. It's like a watered down Xerox copy of a 70s rock band, and it's always the most uninspired and horrible music. But for some reason, like It's always these bands, and they're always a band I've never heard of.
Mm.
And then there's another one. Next show, another one of these bands where they just it's the same thing. I'm like, rock music is it fucking evolved. You don't need to wear the floral button-up shirt anymore. And like, I mean, it'd be okay if it was like every once in a while you'd see a band like that, but it just seems like that's so many younger groups, like they think that's rock and roll. And I'm just like,
It's the Greta Van Fleet syndrome.
oh fuck yeah, fuck that. I've even given that band more time, Greta Van Fleet, because I feel like maybe I'm being unfair. Because I recently watched, like they did that Nirvana. No, I wish. Metallica fundraiser thing where they played live, and opening for them was Greta Van Fleet. And I went, you know what? I'm going to sit here with my beer and I'm going to give them my time. Let's see what Greta Van Fleet can do. They were fucking horrible.
Oh, really?
Like, the vocalist is awful. He has a good range, but his singing is not pleasing at all. The songs are all rehashes of other shit. Now, I'll say it's not just Led Zeppelin anymore. They seem to have branched out a little bit, but every single song, I'm all like, I feel like I fucking heard this song before. And the energy of the band is so like, we watched all these we watched The Song Remains the Same, and we've decided that that's the band we're going to be. And everything about it just seems so not genuine. Like, these kids are probably all very talented and can do more interesting music than this, but they're stuck in this sort of like, well, we've put on this costume. This is the band that we're going to have to be now because we're cosplaying as Led Zeppelin or whoever. And it sucks because I hate being a hater. I hate it. I want to be on board, especially when there's a younger band and people are like, yes. And I'm just like, yeah, I want to be on board. But every single time I've gone to listen to that group or watch them, I'm just like, there's no reason anybody should be talking about this being good, because there's better music out there there's better bands that aren't getting to open for Metallica. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
on the one hand, I will give them this: if they inspire, a younger generation to dive deeper into interesting music from the past or go deeper into bands,
yes,
by all means, right?
I'll give them credit if that happens. If they become like an Elvis Presley, not really in that, but you know what I mean? Like, I hate Elvis. I absolutely hate Elvis and everything he ever did. But if somebody said, well, would you say Elvis is an important artist for rock music? I'm like, absolutely he is. Absolutely. Undeniable. His shit is awful though, but that's just my opinion. And so I figured that if I'm perfectly happy with Greta Van Fleet ushering in, and then they become this, we all started because we saw Greta Van Fleet. Great. You guys have your fucking mark on the map and I support you. But the music is not there for somebody like me that wants more. I know it's really hard to be original these days because so much that you could think to do has already been done by somebody, sometimes many, many times, but just give it a shot. Like, try something new. I don't know. Anyway, Green Day.
No. Cool. That's our first tangent.
Do you think this will be a 3-hour episode?
Potentially.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
There's no square for tangent. There's no tangent square. There should be a tangent square.
Might be on another one.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be, but let's keep going. So Ashley, Baby Eyes, and Lady Cobra is just alti punk. I've called it alti punk because it's not punk. It's got like 1 foot in alternative and 1 foot in punk. Yeah. And it's kind of like it straddles both without going too far in either direction. Hence landing it in the generic zone. Now, Nightlife. Kill the DJ.
We're still on the first one, right?
Yeah, we're still on DOS.
So that's my fault. That's my fault.
See, now I will say, Kill the DJ from Uno felt like harmless fun. This one to me is far more cringy, and like I said about Father of All Motherfuckers, I've never been a fan of that distorted vocals style, like the way it's used here. When Ministry does it, cool. When Nine Inch Nails does it, cool, because you wouldn't get that in a fucking advert for a Nissan Qashqai, right? Whereas, like,
Oh man.
you know, yeah,
I can just see
yeah,
that in the car commercial, the new Toyota Sonata. I want to
yeah.
drive you like an animal.
Trent Reznor's like leather interior on the inside.
Yes. You're welcome, Trent. Take that idea and run with it. If you thought
Oh
you're
man.
like, how am I going to make some more money off my tracks? There you go.
Oh man.
Dose.
Yeah, Dose. Back on track. Wow, that's loud. Cool guitar solo. The melody gets a little annoying though. And Amy is a soft one to close out on. I found this album to be the least catchy and memorable of the three.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact it's sandwiched between two other albums with the exact same sonic qualities and aesthetic, this made it a foreboding listen because I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, I've got two more of these fucking things. That being said, on to Trey, which is the next one up for me, which is part 3 of the 2012 Uno Dos Trey trilogy. Without further ado, Brutal Love.
Oh, that's not on this one. That's not on this sheet. Without further ado, it's on the second one. God damn
it! So it's this like kind of 50s ballad inspired track. Missing You is an upbeat song. 8th Avenue Serenade. The problem is with these albums, like I said, with the 2000s garage rock revival thing, it's just too wimpy on the guitar tones for my tastes. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't jump out with the same bombast as their previous works, that they're like somewhere between clean and distorted without having the balls to go either of the directions,
I feel like a lot of that stuff is supposed to sound like garage bands if those garage bands all wore designer clothes.
Yes. The label set this up. Yeah, Drama Queen. It's at this point the sheer fatigue of consuming 3 albums that both sound and even look almost exactly the same really began to batter me over the eardrums. Ex-Kid. I vibed a little on this one, I'm not going to lie. I'm still on, I'm on album number 3, and this is the longest album of the lot. So I'm like, I want to like this, but shit. Sex, Drugs, and Violence, Alti-Punk. A Little Boy Named Train, Alti-Punk. Amanda's a catchy song. Walk Away. Out here in the fields, I fight for my meals. Because it has that exact same chord sequence. Now, here we go. Dirty Rotten Bastards includes the melody, which is a clear nod to Toreador song from the opera Carmen, which some of you may know as the music box theme that plays in Five Nights at Freddy's when you are absolutely fucked.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's when the animatronics wake up. They catch you and then they stuff you into a robot suit, and you get. Well, while it's not a pleasant experience, let me tell you that, Sonny Jim. 1909 Revolutions is an upbeat track, and The Forgotten is a piano ballad closer. And just like that, I'm limping to the finish line with Uno.
I was miming sticking my pen up my nose into my brain. Number 10. We're on to number 10 now.
Yep. Cool. Here we have part 1 of the 2012 Uno Dos Trey trilogy. Nuclear Family. Okay, good start. Didn't blow me away, but it wasn't a bad opener. Stay the Night. It's catchy. It's toned back on the guitar tones. It's not as bombastic as the previous albums, like I said. See, I'm even repeating myself in my notes. This is how it went. Carpe Diem is another catchy one. Let Yourself Go is a speedy, upbeat one. The guitars definitely have a more jangly indie rock feel on these albums. Kill the DJ. I remember this when this came out and everybody was like, what the fuck, they've gone disco. I'm not going to lie, it's probably the album's highlight for me so far because it's different,
Yeah.
It may be, you could argue it's cringy, but I respect the off the wall change, and that it didn't go down the route of you need a car that's built tough like you. Fell for You is back down to a slightly watered down Green Day sound. Loss of Control, not to be confused with the Van Halen song of the same name.
Yeah, there's got to be. I think once an iconic song with a particular name has been created, there has to be some sort of thing that all albums are now run through a thing where it just you can't call the song that.
Yeah, Loss of Control, Loss of Control, Loss of Control.
I love that song, but like, there's just certain things that I'm just like, yeah, don't call songs that. Like earlier, there's a song called Carpe Diem. That should be a phrase that is no longer used in song titles. We're booting that out. It's already exists a million times.
In actual fact, there is a sizable chunk of this discography where I have thought to myself, I've seen this song title before.
Yes.
Even during the good era, you know. But you know,
but at least I guess it's better than the 90s thing where every single song was one word. You look on the back of a thing and it's like stone, break, flush.
Water.
Those were like the
nice summer.
the 90s song titles.
Yeah. And you always had to sing with all vowels.
That's like that System of a Down song.
Yeah.
We did them a long time ago, guys. We did System of a Down.
Season 1. Holy shit.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. God, I feel old. So yeah, like I said again, Troublemaker. You need a car that's built tough like you. Angel Blue, alty punk. Sweet 16, alty punk. Rusty James, alty punk. Oh Love, Strong Closer. I actually really like this song. The shame here is that given the slashed and mashed treatment, there's probably one album of interesting and good songs, but this trilogy is way too fucking bloated for its own good.
Maybe they will get a slashed and mashed someday. Maybe we can improve this.
Perhaps. I think Uno is the strongest of the three, but my God, they did not have to release over 2 hours of music in one go. Especially when a lot of it felt very undercooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, without further ado, that entire trilogy wrapped up, and we can move on.
We made it through Uno Dos Tres. Good night, everybody. Oh, no, wait. We got 10 more to go, or 9 more to go. I'm going to quickly move on to my number 10. My number 10 is 21st Century Breakdown from 2009. The second of 2 concept albums. I'm doing the in quotes here because the concept here is the vaguest fucking thing ever. And
yeah,
they did it the first time with a concept album, and I think they did it perfectly fine. But I just think that, man, you can't. Like, can you think of a concept album? Like, I can only think of like Pink Floyd, The Wall, Operation Mindcrime. That's really it for like concept albums that are like good all the way through. Like every other
Metropolis Part 2 by Dream Theater, but that's
okay, well,
you know,
yeah.
Oh, and the Rush ones, you know, anything Rush did was.
But they didn't do an entire album. Well, I guess technically you could call Clockwork Angels that. I'll give them a pass. But I just feel like most of the time, the concept it's unnecessary, and it's really just kind of putting a nice bow on something when it's not that good, you know?
Yeah, it's just kind of naming the vibe.
Yeah,
isn't it? Like,
and the even worse, like I think that American Idiot is too long, but this is even more bloated and long than that one.
Yeah.
And Green Day have leaned more into straightforward pop rock music for the masses, but this time it's supposed to be music for the masses, but with a message. And
yeah,
that message is take a nap, because it is pretty dull overall. And it's got its moments, but man, I gotta admit, it seems like they put a whole lot of energy and time into a bunch of uninspired sounding songs. But yet they're presented in a way like it's supposed to somehow feel like revolutionary or something. I don't know what the point was here. And it sucks because politically and socially speaking, I'm on their side and I'm on board with them. musically, I'm clearly not the target market here. And it eventually just becomes overall background music for me. And at the end of it, it becomes I'm very proud of this because I wrote this down. It becomes 70 minutes of what is essentially a 21st century letdown.
Oh, oh.
I'm gonna give myself a hand. Although I also am gonna cross out albums are too long. Albums are too long is getting crossed off of the Cranked and Ranked bingo card. Yeah, I just think 21st Century Breakdown, they didn't need to do this again. And it doesn't have the same power or enjoyability or joyousness, whatever the fuck. Uno Dos Tre broke my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my number 10. 21st Century Breakdown. Also, the fucking title. How fucking generic punk rock is that title? It's like that is literally like, hey, can you generate me what sounds like a punk rock album title that's really important? How about 21st Century Breakdown?
Whoa.
All right, now down to number 9. Let's keep this shit rolling.
Okay, so my number 9 is Revolution Radio.
My number 9 is also Revolution Radio. Let's camp out on this album.
Okay, cool. So to me, this album was a welcome return to form, sonically, and more straightforward than Uno Dos Tre. Enough about those.
Let's not speak of those again.
Yeah. So Somewhere Now, right out of the gate, I was like, thank God for this album. Bang Bang, fake out quiet intro into an explosive kind of song. Revolution Radio is upbeat and memorable. Say Goodbye is a fun stomper. Outlaws, arms waving in the air type song. Bouncing off the wall. This album is way more like it. I was listening to it and I was comparing it to Uno Dos Tre, and I was just happy it didn't fucking sound like those albums, because I was like, you know what, this album, hell yeah, right? Still Breathing, it has some good hooks in it. Young Blood has cool vocal harmonies. Too Dumb to Die is another catchy, happy pop punker. Troubled Times is a laid back track. Forever Now, I mean, this album has been a pleasure in comparison to the bloated slog that was the trilogy.
Forever Now is a fucking Psychedelic Furs song. You don't do that again. That song in an album, and an album too. I just think there's certain titles. It just needs to be kicked back to them. Like, nope, name it something else. Sorry.
You know what? Right, I'm gonna read these song titles and see if I've right. Bang Bang is a Danger song. I suppose you could say Never Say Goodbye. Is a Bon Jovi song. I mean, that's goodbye. You lost more than that in my backseat, baby. Outlaws, there's like 100 rock songs called that.
Yep. One of them. I think there's a Dangerous Toys song called Outlaw.
Yeah. Baby. Don't get me started, because I will not shut up. I
think I got the wrong house. When are we going to do Dangerous Toys? Put them on the list. Dangerous Toys going on the list. Holy shit.
Can I do the whole thing then?
From my hometown of Austin, Texas. Go ahead and do it.
Very nice.
And I love in the video he's wearing these really tight leather Texas flag pants where the star is on the crotch.
Yeah.
Jason McMaster fucking rules. That's a band from my hometown of Austin, Texas.
Hell yeah.
I put them on the list. Who knows when we'll get to them, but Dangerous Toys is now on the list. All right, keep going with the song titles. Where were we doing?
Young Blood. I know that's a Whitesnake song. Too Dumb to Die. Gives me Too Young to Fall in Love vibes, but I'll give it a pass. Troubled Times. I'm thinking of Times of Trouble by Temple of the Dog. Again, close, but it gets a pass.
There's got to be a Troubled Times already.
Yeah. Forever Now. You just said
Psychedelic Furs.
Ordinary World.
Duran Duran. And many other bands.
Her name is Rio, and she
But I love
dances.
Ordinary World's a great song. That's a
Yeah.
great Duran Duran song. But there's got to be others that are called Ordinary World also.
Yeah, Ordinary World is a nice wind down from the album. I'll give it that. Honestly, I had a good time listening to this. My experience was, somewhat colored by the fact that I just listened to three, 2 straight hours of the exact same shit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
with
I
that,
en-
it's
I enjoyed it as well. It's also my number 9, but it's the first one on the list that like I'm not going to totally rip apart because it was even though the title is pretty generic and the album cover is pretty generic, it literally it at this point like why even I don't know why even try. But um it is in certain ways more of the same. They're not breaking any new ground for Green Day here, but I appreciate this album because it's probably the most energy of anything they've done in this century.
Mhm.
It's got some strong tracks too, but I also really like the fact that they did do kind of a return to form here, but also not forgetting what they had just done for several albums. So
Yeah.
it's not just straightforward like punk now. There's punky songs, but there's slower sort of alternative songs because that's what they started doing in the early 2000s. And I like that because if you're going to be a band that I give a shit about, don't write off a certain period of your fucking discography for whatever dumb
Mhm.
reason. Because there are fans that are going to like that. And usually that's me. Whenever a band has a period where they go, oh, that's all the bad albums, that's usually the period where I go, those are some of my favorites, actually.
Even
Um,
Metallica has a Saint Anger slot
yeah,
during their live shows. Speaking of
that's
which, you can tick
I,
that off the little bingo card there.
we already did Metallica, but yeah.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so yeah, anyway, so yeah, I just there's nothing on this album that totally wins me back as like a fan where I'm going to be really interested in Green Day, but I have to admit Revolution Radio overall is a pretty good album. So it goes here at number 9. That one was from 2016. I don't know if we said that date. I don't know if the dates are important to some of you out there, but just in case. Um yeah, so that was my number 9 and your number
Yeah.
9 as well. And now we're
King,
two number 9s. Never mind.
number 9 large, and number
Um
6 with extra dip,
I'm
a
not going to go
number 7,
I'm not
2
going to go
number
into that.
45s, one with cheese, and a large soda.
I'm not going to go into why I just commented on I made that reference because
Yeah,
that'll be a
well,
surprise.
well, you're getting there, man. You're getting there, my
Um,
guy.
so let's move on. Let's move on to number. Oh, by the way, if you see this cool cup here,
Holy
a,
shit!
a friend of the family made this for me as a Christmas present, and it's got
Wow.
like my socials on it and some skulls, and then that and it's a really it's really good quality, and
Dude, I want one.
I'll let her know. I'll be like my co-host on Cranked and Rank would like one as well.
Hey,
But yeah, that's pretty cool. So now I have my own little personal cup that I'm gonna
that's
drink out of.
awesome, man.
Anyway, sorry. This is literally how long have we been doing this? Oh, we haven't reached an hour yet, so that's good. The real question is who's going to make it through an ultra long Green Day episode. I should put like remind me when we get to the end, and I'm going to put in a little Easter egg of like
Mm.
something in particular. And I go, if you can tell me what I said at this particular moment at the end of the show, you win one of my socks. I don't know.
Soiled undies.
Because I have a few of those socks where the other one gets worn out and I just have the one. I don't need it
Yeah.
anymore. Anyway, let's move on to number 8.
Cool. So, my number 8 is 21st Century Breakdown.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the second of their kind of rock opera era albums, and I'm just gonna dive right in because it's a pretty big old chunky boy. Uh, Song of the Century is a little prologue thing, and then you get 21st Century Breakdown. I got about halfway through ranking this discography before curiosity got the better of me, and I went and listened to Father of All Motherfuckers after American Idiot, and it gave me a case of whiplash. I can only imagine I could potentially sue for, you know, especially when I went back to this album, and this is the first song I'm greeted with.
Yeah.
It's a great song. It blends the punk sound with the grand rock opera vibe really well. Um, Secondly, or thirdly rather, we have Know Your Enemy, not to be confused with the
With
Rage Against
Rage
the
Against the
Machine
Machine,
song of the same
or
title.
probably tons of other songs.
Yeah, like it's a great catchy song with hooks aplenty, but it is not. You know,
Yes, I know
uh,
my enemies. We haven't done Rage Against the Machine yet either. We'll get to that shit.
shit, we haven't. Damn,
Yeah.
that's one of those bands where I'm like, we've
Or
done those guys.
these days they should be called Rage for the Machine. You know, because like I don't understand bands or capitalism or anything.
All of which are American dreams. Damn right, and I like those dreams. So yeah, Viva La Gloria is a full-blown piano ballad that explodes into an upbeat punk track.
I apologize for I keep making clicking sounds with my pen. I'm being really annoying on today's episode. I'm sorry about that, guys.
It's okay. I'm not hearing it because
okay,
thankfully
good.
the Zoom is going to take care of that.
It'll be in the like, podcast side of things. It'll be clicky pen. People, God damn it! And I'm not going to edit it out. I'm not editing it. I'm not.
This is where it just looks like this. Like
I can hear your pen though.
Yeah, I know. No, what I was doing like me speaking, but they're just being. Yeah, but like I'm talking over it, so you can't hear it.
God damn it. Okay.
Yeah. Before the lobotomy, Green Day's hooks, for the most part, are pretty damn infectious. Christian's Inferno, the Aussie-esque evil laugh on this is pretty funny. Last Night on Earth is a pretty ballad. East Jesus Nowhere, cool. Peacemaker, acoustic-led rocker.
Peacemaker, I think Peacemaker. I think that's a song. This is lesser known, but there's a song by Cephalic Carnage, and I think it's called Peacemaker, and I really like it. Anyway,
hey man, it's taken, guys.
There's other songs called that too, but yeah.
Okay, so we've got Last of the American Girls. It's pretty cool. Murder City is an upbeat track. Viva La Gloria, little girl. Tell me you came out in 2007 without telling me you came out in 2007. The spooky emo aesthetic is practically dripping off of this song, if not this whole album. Restless Heart Syndrome, it's power ballad time. Horseshoes and Hand Grenades is this rockin' pounder. The Static Age, more great hookage. 21 Guns.
Misfits.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I thought that was kind of a nod, though. I think that was kind of a purposeful, self-aware thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, 21 Guns. This is a hugely successful, big, epic ballad. But here's my thing.
Was it a hit song? I thought it didn't really do much for them, but maybe I'm wrong.
Judging by its Spotify numbers, it's like their most played song. Well, it's one of them.
Dang. Okay. All right. What the fuck?
Let me double check this shit because either I'm off my head or who knows. Oh, it's one of them.
Here's where we go to the internet. That should be one of the squares too. Here's where we go to the internet.
It is their 6th most played song.
Can I guess what their number 1 is?
What's that?
Basket Case?
It is Basket Case.
Okay,
you know what number 2 is?
Number 2 is Wake Me When September Ends.
No, that's 5th.
Okay. What's second?
Okay. Second's American Idiot.
Okay.
Third is Good Riddance, Time of Your Life.
Oh man, I would have guessed that would be number 1 now that I'm thinking about it, but yeah.
Something unpredictable. In the end, it's right. Copyright strike. Here we go. That was too good. Right. Huge epic ballad. You just know, though, listening to 21 Guns, you just know they definitely listened to My Chemical Romance's Black Parade and thought, we'll have a crack at something like that. Because the guitar harmonies, or guitarmonies, as I call them nowadays, are very much in that vein. And
I've never heard that album.
Have you not?
I've heard the song, and to be completely honest, the song makes me exhausted. I don't know
Yeah.
why. It's just there's too much. Like, I don't know what it is. Every time I hear that song, I go, "Woo! Can we do something else? This is like too much."
I just know all you have to do to get like an emo kid's attention is just go bing, and then they're like do do do. So if you're ever trying to hump one down, just like and you're in the woods, just go bing. There he is, get him. um, no, it's yeah, American Eulogy, Mass Hysteria / Modern World. First half is cool, but the Modern World half is a banger. And See the Light is a good closer. All in all, I enjoyed this album. It is a bit bloated and pretty long, but considering the fact that I sat through Uno Dos Tre,
Yeah.
it's dwarfed by it by one whole hour. So yeah, 21st Century Breakdown has some thoroughly enjoyable moments, but it is a bloated rock opera. That being
Yeah.
said, full major malfunction there. Over to you. I need to start talking.
All right. My number 8, an album I liked a lot more than you, Father of All Motherfuckers from
Okay.
2020, their most recent album. And I know when this first came out and the first song was released, it was one of those things where the trend was everybody putting up YouTube videos of them reacting to it, going, "What the fuck is this?" And I'm all like, great. I didn't think it was that bad. And then when I finally heard the album, I was like, you know what? Like, this far along in their career, they didn't need to do anything different, and they did anyway. And not only like the music, which like a lot of times has like almost like a glam rock sound at times, and then Billy Joe's singing is a little bit different on this. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting too. That his approach was different on this, and they may sound like a different band at times, which I would say, but I enjoy this band for now. If they did another album of this, I'd be like, yeah, you already did that.
Yeah.
Some of the songs, though, like we talked about, they do sound like they're made for hip commercials for modern teens.
Yeah, I think there's a layer of cheese there that
Yeah.
even I can't get past,
Yeah.
and I
But
like fucking Poison.
yeah, but I really appreciated the energy and brevity of this album, because all of these things, the title of the album, the cover of the album, the shift to doing something that wasn't expected, the 26-minute running time, this seems like the most punk thing they've done in years. Like,
Fair.
it seems just like, fuck you, here's what our album sounds like. And it's like, and that is a thing, that they are a band that, like them or not, whether you think some of their stuff's generic or whatever, they seem like a band that has constantly been honest about who they are and what they're wanting to do, and they've never fucking backed down. Like, I remember at one point there was a big deal about, like, Walmart wanted to like have edited versions of their albums in order to sell them, and they were like, no, fuck you, we're not, just don't sell our album then.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands would not do that. But and especially this, Father of All Motherfuckers. You can't even like the title would have to. I guess the title was probably censored on the album cover. But anyway, I don't necessarily want to go back and listen to this album again, but I wasn't bored, and there were parts that I liked, and overall I was like, yeah, good on you for doing this album that some people hated, but still had some good energy in it. So my number 8 is Father of All Motherfuckers.
Fair. So my number 7 is American Idiot, which
all right, not my number 7, so I'm not joining in with you.
Yeah, it would be a lot of people's number 1, depending on when you grew up.
Sure.
And, this is of my generation. This is, this is my generation's Green Day. It's American Idiot. I'm not gonna lie, I fucking love it. I love that song. It's an iconic song, great opening track. And poppy as it is, it's punk as fuck at the same time. Jesus of Suburbia, big ass rock opera stuff right here, clocking in at 9 minutes and 8 seconds. There's lots of different cool parts in this song, really cool. Holiday, I remember seeing the video for this a lot back when I watched the Kerrang channel back in my early teens. It's a good song,
Yeah.
cool riffs and catchy vocals. Same goes for Boulevard of Broken Dreams, but it's a ballad. Love the tasteful lead melodies in the verses. Those do, do,
Yeah.
do, like I love that.
I like the riffy part at the end.
Yeah.
It's like it's a nice little it's pretty heavy for Green Day, that part of the song.
Yeah, yeah, it's they're one of those bands that can bust something like that out quite sparingly, but it's very effective when they do it.
Sure.
Um, Are We the Waiting is an anthemic track with a cool double time shift in it. Saint Jimmy is cool. Give Me Novocaine is an acoustic led rock ballad. She's a Rebel, Extraordinary Girl, really cool songs. Letter Bomb. Trey Cool's drumming fucking rules, man. Like, he doesn't do crazy technical shit, but he knows what fits where for the
He
type of music they play.
Yeah, he when once we get to talking about their first album when they have a different drummer, you really hear the difference that Trey brought to the band because he is a
Yeah.
solid fucking drummer. Like he's not flashy, but he is
But
up there with those dudes that is holding the shit down. So
yeah, yeah, their rhythm section is fucking killer.
absolutely
Um,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, oh man, like I was saying, "Wake Me Up When September Ends." The iconic ballad that's become a meme every October 1st since its release in 2004. Guess we gotta go wake Billy Joe Armstrong up. Am I right, guys? Oh, it's really funny. But yeah, like I was saying,
And there's always those
Homecoming.
people in the comments section that are like, "Don't you realize it's not a happy song? Why do you have to bring that up all the time?"
Guys, 9/11 was bad. Um, Homecoming, another long ass track coming in at 9 minutes and 20 seconds. And what's her name? I like the Western guitar leads. It's a cool closer. Honestly, it's a really solid album. It's
Yeah.
just that aesthetically, I prefer another era of Green Day's material. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to you because we have cracked the halfway mark.
All right. My number 7, this was I the last album of theirs that I bought when it came out and was kind of my ending of my relationship with them because this one got old to me really quickly.
Right?
Number 7 is Warning from 2000,
Okay.
which when it
Which
first
is my
came
number
out,
six.
oh
So,
sweet, okay.
yeah.
So it's their sixth album, and at this point I was a Green Day fan. And when this came out, I appreciated the change in sound. I was like, oh,
Hmm.
it's interesting. It's like a lot of it's acoustic, and even the stuff that's more rockin', there's minimal distortion. It's almost just like Green Day decided, you know what, we're a pop punk band now. Here's just a pop album, and like pop
It's
in
kind of
the
folky, folk punk
at
sort
times,
of.
yeah. I feel like I enjoyed listening to this album again because I don't think I'd listened to it all the way through since 2000 or 2001 probably. And it really feels like an album that they needed to do almost like a reset because
Yeah.
I feel like they would have continued repeating themselves like they've kind of started to do. Well, I guess they didn't with Father of All Motherfuckers. So they're really good at throwing things at resetting for themselves when they need to. But
Yeah.
I just yeah, because I think that albums like this and American Idiot, I think that it's why this band has become so big and will remain big because they have the classics, but they also are a band that seems to know how to keep things fresh for themselves, and
Hmm.
that's pretty cool. But yeah, overall, the Warning it's a lighter affair, a little bit less enjoyable than what they had done before for my taste, but it still has enjoyable moments. It still has some really catchy parts in it, and probably my biggest gripe about this one is that even though it does feel like, let's do something different, let's reset, I really feel like it was done in a sort of they were kind of unsure of where to go, because if you think about what was happening in music in the year 2000, the pop punk crown had been snatched off their heads by Blink 182, and everything else was new metal and stuff like that. So maybe this album was kind of a fuck you to what was going on in popular music, but the problem is it just wasn't a very potent fuck you. But yeah, I think the idea of this album and the presentation of this album is more interesting to me than the actual songs a lot of the times. But I found myself really feeling this last time listening to this, that it feels like closing the book on 90s Green Day, and it feels like it's almost like an album long in credits roll. Like, this is Green Day of the 90s. The credits are rolling and we're hearing the album warning play as the credits roll. And then starting with American Idiot, I guess you get the sequel, Green Day Part 2. We're in the 2000s now. But yeah, I just I like this album, but it's not a go-to for me. But listening to it, I go, there's a quality to the album that's undeniable, and I like, just like with Father of All Motherfuckers, I just like it when they do a little something different. So it's my number 7 and your number 6.
Cool. So yeah, Warning, my number 6. So I'm gonna kick this right off with the track by track. Warning is an acoustic-led, catchy-ass song. Blood, Sex, and Booze is this bouncy alt-punker. Church on Sunday has a 50s rock and roll running through its veins. And that baseball organ sort of sound is a nice touch too. Mm-hmm. Fashion Victim is a swingy kind of track. Castaway, again, has that throwback 50s rock and roll feel to it. Misery. I've had a weird thing where the term lot lizard didn't exist in my vocabulary until this week, and now it's everywhere. I hear it everywhere. Like when you spend an hour looking for that one specific nice car in GTA, only for there suddenly to be like 7 of them in the same place. That's what I've had with lot lizard. Anyway,
what GTA? I'm crossing off GTA.
There it is. I was going to throw one reference
on my bingo card.
Hey, Deadbeat Holiday is a cool song. Hold On. There's some stomps and claps in there. It's made for the live shows, isn't it? Jackass is a fun song. Waiting is another fun song. Minority is a really catchy song. Yeah. That was one of the singles. Yeah. And Macy's Day Parade is a nice closer. Honestly, this is an enjoyable album and a necessary step in their discography. I 100% agree with the credits rolling on one era of the band. Yeah. And, American Idiot is effectively part 2 of the story. Yeah. It's weird to me. I never knew growing up, like, I always thought like Dookie was the first album, and then there was Nimrod, and then there was American Idiot. I didn't realize there were this many in the 90s. So this was a learning experience for me. I'm having a good time.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I like to play.
My number 6 is the 1997 album Nimrod, which is their 5th album. I actually saw them on this tour, and it's always a very interesting thing for me, because I was a really big fan of the album Insomniac. So when Nimrod came out, I quickly bought it. And I remember there not being much of a hype for the album. There was music videos, but it wasn't a big hype. And then they announced their tour, and they were coming through and playing a club, essentially. And I was like, weren't they just playing arenas last year? And now they're coming through and doing a club show. I mean, it was a bigger club, but it was still a club. And so I went to go see them. So I got to see Green Day, like, post them blowing up. And it was just me in a mosh pit 5 feet away from, from Billy Joe. And they put on a fucking great show. And I was just like, yeah, I was a big fan of this album. And I remember, like, I really liked and still do like the variety of songs on this. But I remember when the album came out, I was always making mixtapes for friends. And the song that I was putting on everybody's mixtape was Good Riddance, The Time of Your Life. And I'm all like, if they release this fucking thing as a single, this album's going to blow up. You watch me. You watch. And guess what?
Yeah.
Not only that, not only did it become really popular, I think it became popular a second time because it was started getting used in like TV shows and stuff in the early 2000s. And then it got even bigger. So, so they recovered from, I guess, the slump from Insomniac and Nimrod with one of their biggest hits ever.
And it's been played at every high school graduation ever since.
Yeah. And this album is 50 minutes long, which is very long for a punk album, and too long for this. So like I said, I appreciate that it's varied, but my problem is that all the songs aren't winners. And so it is one that could have been pared down and made even stronger. I feel like, I don't remember how many tracks on, like 16 or something like that. And it could have been, chop it down to 12 at least. And I think it could have been fucking killer all the way through. But that being said, I do think some of their best stuff is on this album. I just think there's some other stuff that's just kind of meh or kind of same old, same old. One of my favorite moments in this entire album, and this is probably one of yours too, is the chorus on the song Take Back, because he essentially sounds like Jeff Walker from Carcass. He's going, Take back. And I was like, every time I hear that song, I go, God damn it, that's genius that he decided to do it that way. Because he didn't have to. He did not have to.
I was kind of shocked that when I looked at it, I looked at the play counts of all of the songs on Nimrod, and it is shockingly like a whole million below everything else. I'm like, why? It's like
I don't know.
It's one of the best moments.
It's so good, but I love the way he does that chorus. That's still one of those things where if I was like really good friends with the band and with Billy Joe, I would be like, if I come see you guys in concert, can you please do Take Back, okay? Because it's one of my favorites, just because it's like there's no. And it's so great because like there's the really aggressive, almost death metal style chorus, followed by a song that has fucking a horn section in it, and I'm just like, that's why this album is good. No. It may not be 100% winners, but the sort of fuck it, let's just do a little bit of everything vibe on this album is what makes it really good. And so that's why it's my number 6, Nimrod from 1997.
Very nice. Well, my number 5 is Nimrod from 1997.
Hey,
nice. It's kind of, it's all over the place stylistically, but it, even though it could do with some fat trimming, it's still really good when it shines. Nice Guys finished last, up tempo opener, Hitchin' a Ride, swingy one. The Grouch, love this. Redundant is a ballady rocker.
I love that one. I love that one.
Me too, man. Scattered is a fun, speedy track. All the Time is punky. Worry Rock is this mid-tempo rocker. Platypus, I Hate You. Skank Beat punkage.
Yeah.
Uptight. Wow, great bass. Last Ride In is a cool viber. Jinx. Trey loves his crash cymbal, doesn't he? Haushinka loves his toms too. Walking Alone has some harmonica on it, which you'd hear more of on Warning. Reject is a speedy punker. Take Back is very dark and punky, almost thrashy, complete with totally gnarly growled vocals. King for a Day, closest thing to ska punk they ever did. Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. 2 ballad songs. Sorry, bracket songs.
Oh wait, bracket songs. Bracket songs. He's got his brackets going. All right. Man, we're good. I'm nowhere near having a bingo, but I'm doing my best.
Hey man, we're ticking them off bit by bit. But yeah, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life is a beautifully composed song. Like, holy shit, for a band that did Basket Case to bust this out, like, what a fucking way to announce, I'm actually just a really, really, really good songwriter.
And you know what? I'm just gonna throw this out there, and I don't mean to offend uh, emos of the early 2000s, which would include my wife, really, because she's into a lot of that stuff. Time of Your Life shits all over Hey There Delilah. Okay, it is a
Oh, 100%.
way better song. And
Holy
those
shit.
songs for some reason bring up the same thing for me because they're acoustic,
Yeah.
pop songs. But like comparatively speaking, come on, you can get
Yeah.
rid of that shit.
I'll
Time of
tell
Your
you what the
Life
diff
is a fucking masterpiece.
I'll tell you what the difference is. I feel something when I hear Time of Your Life.
Yeah,
Um, Whenever I hear Hey There Delilah, I think of a grocery store.
I think
Um,
probably with a lot of those bands, my problem is in this day and age. Whenever I hear the song, I go, has the singer of this band been caught for molesting people yet? Because like it seems like every single emo band now has one member that has molested somebody, stalked somebody, beaten
Jesus, man.
somebody. Like it's like holy shit, man. These guys are apparently so in touch with their emotions. Apparently, didn't keep them in check that well, and made some really shitty decisions. Um,
Shit, man.
anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Like every single band, like I'll see a comment like this is what he did wrong. I'm like, shit, man. And it's always the emo bands.
Fiddle riddle diddle. um, yeah. Finally, you get prosthetic head.
Mhm.
Has some cool tempo shifting in it. Honestly, with a bit of fat trimmed, this album could have gone further up the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately for it, it is kind of bloated. So with that, uh, back to you. Yeah.
But that's not my number five.
That's another one off the list,
I'm gonna
people.
cross that off of the Crank to Rank
Damn.
bingo. Still not close to getting. I don't think I'm gonna get a bingo this time. My number five is the debut album from Green Day, 39
Okay.
slash Smooth from
Nice.
1990. And let me go ahead and just get this out of the way. We're getting into Banger Central here, folks.
Yep.
So I'll cross that one out. We're getting into Banger Central. Because this album, it's John Kiffmeyer on drums. It's not Trey Cool, who would join
Yeah.
in the second album. But from album number one, you can tell that this band had something.
Yes.
And I always liked that it seemed like pop music played by punk kids, which really you could say that about a lot of punk, really.
Yeah.
But so really, like, I think this album is killer from beginning to end. And the only thing that keeps it, from being higher is that it doesn't have Trey Cool. The drums are a little wonky at times. Sorry, John, but they're a little wonky. And Trey brought this solid fluidity to their music that was really important to what they were doing. But there is a raw, enjoyable energy to this album. It's a huge, great statement for the beginning of their career. And it's got one of my favorite, probably my favorite Green Day song of all time, which is called Going to Pascalaqua.
Yep.
And I love that song. Absolutely love that song. And 10 songs, 31 minutes, no filler, a band that is destined for greatness and already above their peers. Other bands that were putting out pop punk in the late 80s, early 90s were not doing it this good. And it makes sense that they would blow up and leave all those other fuckers behind. So my number 5, 39 Smooth from 1998.
Whenever I do one of our episodes, by the way, my number 4 is 39 Smooth.
Sweet.
Whenever I do these episodes on bands and stuff, I like to do like a scan of other people's lists and see what the general consensus or I say general consensus, whatever the listicle media will try and tell you is the right order that everything is in. Generally speaking, you'll get like the odd one here or there that's like way higher or way lower. I found this one to be criminally low in most occasions.
Makes
Usually
no sense.
bottom spot. Like, and I'm like, why? Why is that?
It's
and they're
fucking
like,
great.
oh well, they're like, oh well, the production. This is a punk band.
Yeah.
Since when has punk ever given a fuck about
But
production?
to be fair, though, that being said, it still sounds pretty good for what it is for an independent release on a small label.
Exactly.
Lookout
right?
Records was not a huge label.
Like, here's the thing I was thinking the whole time. I was like, wow, this is like a little secret grunge album, It kind of has that, like, um, late 80s, early 90s sub pop feel to it at times,
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I really like it.
yeah.
At the Library is a great, catchy opener. Don't Leave Me reminds me of a certain Kinks song with some grungy bits in there too. I Was There. I do love those early 90s jangly punk guitars. I always like the harmonies Green Day do with their vocals as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Even during my fuck pop punk phase, I always had a soft spot for Green Day. Disappearing Boy. Yep, sorry, I second guessed myself. Come on, well, you gotta have more faith in yourself then. Disappearing Boy. Love the energy on this album so far. Green Day by Green Day from the album. Oh, they almost did what Black Sabbath did.
Damn.
Yeah, Going to Pasalacqua is a great fun track, really good.
Although, yeah.
16. I should have better prepared 16-year-old me for the shit show the world would be roughly 6 to 8 years later. That's not really anything to do with the song. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Road to Acceptance is another fun one. Rest, a bit more of a grungy, slow plodding thing. Very much enjoy that. The Judge's Daughter, pretty bitching guitar solo in this one too. See, that's the thing. They'll throw out a guitar solo every now and again, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
go off, King.
I mean, honestly, there was a certain period of punk rock music in general, late 80s, early 90s. I always throw those dates out there because that's when all the best music was made. And a lot of punk bands had fucking guitar solos. Bad Religion, every song had a fucking guitar solo. No Effects had guitar solos. Any band that was worth a damn, they had some fucking guitar solos, which very quickly, once it was like, oh no, it's not punk, then that's when they all shed that sort of stuff. Actually, I don't think Bad Religion did. I think Bad Religion still has some guitar solos here and there. That's another band to jump into at some point because
definitely
that's a killer discography right there too.
Yeah, overall, this album, I love the rawness and youthful energy. Like you said, the drums are a little wonky because Trey isn't at the throne yet.
Yeah.
But this album, I love many rough debut albums out there because they showcase greatness in its infancy, and that's a really interesting thing to hear. They've got something to prove. They're hungry. They're for any lists to have this lower than Uno Dos Tre, frankly, is fucking criminal. And they need their ears tested.
I don't know.
Fucking people, man.
Yep. My number 4.
We're right about everything.
My number 4. Some people would probably think this is too low. My number 4 is American Idiot from 2004. Okay. This is a good example of an album, though, that I don't find myself wanting to listen to it very often, but I cannot deny that it's a good album. So that's
me too. Clap.
Yeah. So that's why it had to go here. It's a fucking Grammy-winning album. Their 7th album and the start of the 2000s Green Day with them doing something ambitious and kind of a rebirth for the band with the concept album and the longer songs where there are parts that sound very much like Green Day, but also they're incorporating new things that they had never done before. A lot of songs like Boulevard of Broken Dreams. It's pretty new territory for them. But it's a more mature and refined Green Day on this, which I enjoy. And yeah, I mean, it's really like it's a step forward for the band, and really was the album that I think they needed this album and the success of this album to make that step over into like, what do you call it, like a legacy type band where all of a sudden like you have enough quality shit under your belt that you're now set doing big tours, playing arenas for the rest of your life because you've done enough. There's a lot of bands like that have made that tip right over to where like, oh, now you'll be good enough to where you're set for life playing big shows and people will always come. And this is, I think,
Yeah.
American Idiot was the last piece of that puzzle of them being that kind of band, which great for them. You know, I'm very happy for them. I do have to admit though that the reason why this isn't a really big go-to for me is because I think there are some amazing songs on here, but I think what I enjoy about the album is more about the sum of its parts than the actual songs themselves.
Right.
I enjoy the presentation and the different vibes on some of the songs, but it's undeniable that it's good. So but yeah, I just think it's a really important album for the band. And if somebody put this at number one, I wouldn't fault them for it. I just think that Green Day had a sound that they, you know, they sounded like Green Day, but very quickly it was such an infectious sound that there were all these other bands that sounded just like Green Day. And that's not what American Idiot sounds like. So I think putting this album at number one is kind of selling them short a little bit of like what they actually accomplished, because it's a great album, but they did three of the Green Day style that I think are unfuckwithable classic pop punk albums, and so that's where we're getting into for my top three. So let's start with your. I think we have the same. Do we have the same top three? We have the same top three. Oh my god, nice. Everybody, is it going to be? Are we going to match up? We might. Fuck, I don't know. Let's find out. All right, here we go, everybody. Here we go.
We very well may match up, indeedy. So my number three is Kerplunk.
We matched up so far, ladies and gentlemen. My number three is also Kerplunk from 1991.
Okay, so without further ado,
that's not on the list. God damn it.
So 2000 light years away is a fun opener. One for the Razorbacks is a good 1-2 punch so far.
Yeah.
Welcome to Paradise. Make that 3. Christie Road is this like half ballady, jangly one. Rather nice, actually. Private Ale brings it back up a bit. Dominated Love Slave is like a funny hillbilly.
I want to be your dominated love slave.
Yeah.
I want to be the one who takes pain. Sung by Trey Cool.
Yep. Yeah, it's good fun, you know.
Because I love feeling dirty and I love feeling cheap. Anyway.
One of My Lies. That's a
good
punk chord sequence if ever I've heard it. Yep. 80. Wow. Great bass.
Give some props to Mike Dirnt.
Yes.
Pronounce his last name.
Mike Dirnt.
His last name sounds like hitting a bass note. Dirnt. This is how the bass is gonna go.
Do the Seinfeld theme.
We can't be the first people that have said his last name sounds like hitting a bass note. Dirnt.
It has to be somewhat intentional.
He's gonna pop and be like, actually, it's pronounced Dirnt.
Well, at least it's not gent.
Yeah.
So yeah, where was I? Android, Speedy. No one knows. This is something they beat someone else to. Not to be confused with the Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a plodding kind of ballady track. Chorus on a bass guitar. Yes, from me. Who wrote Holden Caulfield? I like that halftime kind of bit in the later half of the song. Take a shot every time I say half. And words I might have ate. Acoustic? Cool. Works for a closer. This already, as an album, shows a maturity from their previous effort, but it still has that. It's kind of like Ride the Lightning, where they're kind of between being quite raw, but also gearing up for a banger.
Yeah.
That it's in that zone where they're like, they have the confidence now, but still the rawness.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
And so yeah, being as we matched up, now it's time
Yeah.
for your take.
So yeah, also my number three. I don't have a lot to add. This is the first one where they have the full on Green Day sound with Trey Cool on board, and it's
Yes.
a great fucking album, an improvement from their first one in pretty much every way possible. Um, it's clear though, hearing this album again, after several years, in hindsight, I hear it and I go, their music deserved better production. And so once they got
Mm,
signed to a major, I'm like, that's what they're supposed to sound like.
yeah.
Um, and it's just it's an absolute pop punk classic, but it's a pop
Hmm.
punk classic that I feel like they would beat two times in a row. And Yeah, it's this is another one that I feel like old school pop punkers, if they put this album at number one, it's another one where I would go, I don't disagree with you,
Yeah.
because it's a solid classic album of the genre, and so it's also my number three. And now we will find out if we match up with our number twos, which would mean that we also matched up with our number ones, which would be a hell of an end for this episode. But let's you probably can't hear it.
Cool. I can hear it. I can hear it subtly.
Okay,
If
all
I
right. That was a
yeah.
drum roll with the fingers.
Okay, so my number two is Insomniac.
Yes,
Hey! We have a
we've
three-way matchup.
we have matched up on our twos, three twos and ones.
Nice.
My number two is also Insomniac from 1995. But I have to before you get into it, I have to say this is my favorite Green Day album. But I
Yeah.
could not deny a lot of the things I'll talk about for Dookie. But my number two is
Okay.
Insomniac, but it's the only one I own on vinyl.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's why I didn't even bother to bring it out. Got to cross off vinyl.
Vinyl.
Okay,
It's the
man,
final
we're
countdown.
still not close. God damn it. All right, anyway, all right, let's go ahead.
Wow.
Let's talk about Insomniac.
Okay, so Insomniac. Armitage Shanks is just a blast.
That's a
Hey,
great
there it
beginning.
is. See, I always know that it's a good album because you immediately interrupt me with whatever music is on it.
I fucking love the
Yeah,
energy of this album. And
it's fantastic.
I read in their wiki that they drank a shitload of coffee and tried to like be as aggressive as possible in their playing and I think it really comes across. It
It
just
shows.
sounds like a band, like a fucking freight train running through everything, with their music.
Yeah,
Anyway,
so much of this album. Of course, it was coffee that made this album because holy shit, so much of
Insomniac.
it. It's just way up there, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, Armitage Shanks is a blast of upbeat, door kicking down poppy punkage. Brat is short and sweet. Stuck with me, so far keeping that upbeat pop punk vibe going. Great
Yeah.
energy going on there. Geek Stink Breath. Thankfully, this song doesn't stink. Uh, no Pride. Shifted gear back up to the fast tempos again.
Mm-hmm. What happened?
Nothing. I'm just hearing Nirvana Unplugged really loudly from the neighboring room. And as far
That's
as I know,
nice.
uh, yeah, I'm not really sure who's in the front room right now because my nan's usually in there and I can't see her watching Nirvana Unplugged.
Maybe she's finally going through her grunge phase.
If I walk out there and she's in a flannel, man, I'm gonna flip. I'm gonna be like, "Oh shit, here we go." Right. Where was I? Bob's Uvula Who? This
Babs's,
album's sorry, Babs. Sorry, I fucked up there.
which is a reference to a Saturday Night Live sketch from the 70s.
Ah, I have yet to do a 70s Saturday Night Live deep dive.
I think it might actually be from the first season because it has Chevy Chase in it, and Chevy Chase was only in one season of Saturday Night
Wow.
Live. Anyway, fun fact, ladies and gentlemen.
Fun fact. Yeah. So yeah, this album's a great time so far. 86. My ADHD ass is having a blast with this album. It's just every second is just fucking just crammed with musical content, you know?
Yeah,
Like even the
yeah,
drum rolls are like fucking
yeah.
love it. Panic Song, the
Yes.
album's longest. Yes, and the funny thing is, the Panic Song, the album's longest track, clocking in at the length of a standard pop song, which is
Yeah.
punk as hell. Uh,
And
Steer It and Yav.
the beginning of that song is so like not what Green Day was known for. Because it's
Mm,
literally this buildup where you, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know that it was Green Day until he starts singing in that song.
literally. Yeah.
And that song has probably got, I love the lyrics on Insomniac overall, but I think that song has the first line of the chorus is one of, it's probably in my top 10 favorite lines ever written in a song, which is the and the world is a sick machine breeding a mass of shit. Like I just love the way he sings it in kind of like a happy way, but just like I'm just like, man, his lyrics were so fucking good on this
Yeah.
album. And I love the idea of like an upbeat pop punk album where the lyrics are all very like
Society is cancer. Yeah.
yeah, it's just very like the opposite of what the music would lead you to
Yeah.
want to sing about, and I love it. It's one of the reasons.
My dog is dead.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love the energy of this album. And
Mhm.
it doesn't let up. Stuart and the Av, wow, great bass. Brain Stew, fucking great song. And Jaded, fucking great song part
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
I
much so
agree.
that
I agree.
they had two music videos and they jammed them together for, you know,
But still, it's still only like a 3 minute song anyway.
yeah, exactly. Westbound Sign. I'm criminally late to the 90s Green Day party, man. I am such a fool. Tightwad Hill, more punky goodness. Walking Contradiction is a bouncy closer. Best way to follow up a classic, double down and
Yeah.
just be like, yeah, we can do it again.
But expanding the sound on it though, because we talk
Yeah,
about Panic Song and like Geek Stink Breath and uh uh the other one, the fucking one we just talked about. Um
yeah.
I can't, what happened to my brain right now? That's that one song. There's they I remember when this album came out, like I was immediately just like, oh, this is so good. Like they just topped everything they did on the last album.
Mm,
And it didn't, a lot of people didn't like it. And I'm like, what is
mm,
not to like about this album? And even that, now that I listen to it, because I've heard it many, many times over the years, I've learned that a thing that keeps it fresh for me is the fact that it isn't chock full of hits. So it's
mm,
so whereas like Dookie, we'll get onto that one in a minute. This one like maintains this energy because even the songs that were singles, I don't hear that much. And so this just to me is a much more enjoyable album. And it's great. I just think it's absolutely solid. It'd be the one that if you're not into Green Day and you are trying to get into Green Day, I'm like, just start with Insomniac because it's just like
yeah.
it's got the poppiness. It's got good energy. It's not very long. It's just
And it's
it's a
not crammed full of the big songs that you're probably sick of hearing.
yeah, no, it's just a great one. And like I said, it's my favorite, but I could not be honest with myself and put it at number one because number one had to be Dookie, and it's our
Dookie.
joint number one Green Day album. Let's talk about it.
I just want to, before we get into this, you see how, like, what a fucking pivot we've done from, like, the bottom albums to just absolutely gushing now, like, about these albums. Like,
It's like the Helmet episode all over again.
yeah, which was, like we said, all Winona Ryder's fault. You're great in Stranger Things, but you ruined Helmet.
Yeah, at this point, I'm a fan of Winona Ryder and not Helmet. So
But yeah, like I said, Dookie certainly ain't Dookie if you ask me.
nope, nope.
Um, I mean, Burnout, it just opens with a bang, short and sweet. Having a blast is a great upbeat song. Chump is just them further refining their sound. Longview, iconic drum pattern and bass combo.
But yeah,
Like
hell yeah.
ding 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 ding. That's just so good. Um, Welcome to Paradise. More fun, upbeat, rocking stuff. Love the
I
chromatic breakdown.
which version do you like better of Welcome to Paradise? I like the Dookie version better than the Kerplunk version.
I like the Dookie version.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
gets, because like I said, their sound needs this kind of production, and it sounds
Yeah.
perfect. It's an album that still sounds amazing however many years later. It's almost 30 years later.
Yeah, I feel like, generally speaking, we don't like to re-record your material on this show, but I feel like if you have a song that's good enough within like a couple albums, you can be like, oh, okay, we'll do what Faith No More did and give this album the major label treatment. You know,
Yeah,
we
I
we
just
care. Yeah,
I was just
we
saying
care
like
a lot
yeah,
went from bum bum to dirt dirt.
yeah, I would say there are certain exceptions, but I do think that one of the only times that I really am forgiving about re-recording songs is if you are making that jump from an indie to a major, and
Yeah.
there is a song that's a very strong song for you, and you can present it better.
Hmm.
Then by all means do it. But like once you're an established band and you go back and I'm just, no, just stop that shit.
I don't want to hear any version of Rock You Like a Hurricane that doesn't sound like 1984.
Do you think this counts? There's one square that says, "Oh, cover songs." Do you think that counts here? Because I don't know
Uh,
that was referring to actual cover songs or bands covering their own songs. I'm gonna go ahead and cross it out.
well, isn't there a no re-record? Isn't there a re-recording stuff
There could be,
one?
maybe it's on the other card.
I think so.
So
Yeah.
I won't cross that out then because I think it's supposed to be us not liking cover songs, not bands covering their own
Uh,
songs. Um,
did Green Day ever
anyway,
do a cover song? They did Shenanigans, right?
I don't Shenanigans. Is that a cover song?
No, that's an album, but it's a
That's
covers
B
album or
side.
something.
No, it's B
Is it?
sides. There's B sides
Is
on
it?
it. Yeah,
Well,
I don't. It's not.
it had a cover on it. I remember seeing.
It probably
Maybe.
does. For some reason I can't think of a cover song that they did at this point. But yeah,
Let me double check
to
that
the
shit.
internet because
Green Day
this episode is not long enough.
Shenanigans. Okay. Let's have a look. Shenurples
Yep.
is a compilation album by American rock band Green Day, released on July 2nd, 2002 by Reprise Records. The album contains B-sides, rarities, covers, there we go, and previously unreleased track, Haha, You're Dead. Strikingly similar to Surprise! You're Dead!
What's the
Yeah,
cover song on it? Can you see what the cover song that is on it?
shit, hang on, sorry, I closed the tab.
Damn it, Eddie.
Unclose the tab.
Do you remember that track? There's a track on the first Old Dirty Bastard album where it's just him going, "You remember back in the day you used to do this?" And he does it for like a really long time.
Yeah. Here it is. Here's the cover I heard today. Tired of Waiting for You. Written
Yes.
by DBs, originally performed by the Kinks. There
I
we go.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was on the soundtrack to the movie Private Parts about Howard Stern.
Ah,
I
yes.
think.
Howard Stern
Anyway,
movie Private Parts. Yes. Back to Dookie.
yes, Dookie.
Yeah. Dookie. Right.
That's
Yes,
by the way,
Dookie.
that's a word that makes my daughter laugh every time. So
Dookie.
so much so that we started a game. This was last year when we were going to and from school. When whatever song would come up, we would try to put the word Dookie in the title to make it funny. And so we haven't been doing that this year. She's matured, but
Me and my friends used to do a similar thing, but like fully grown, but we'd replace it with in my ass. So like
Oh.
we'd put in my ass at the end. Oh, probably the best one I ever heard was 10,000 fists in my ass while disturbed. That was probably the winner. But yeah, like I say, Uh, Basket Case. Sorry, wait, where was I? Welcome to Paradise. Great song. Pulling Teeth. Almost ballady rock song. And
Yeah.
then here we have the crown jewel in the crown that is Dookie with the absolute banger. What a classic, Basket Case.
Yep.
This is one of those songs that I never get sick of. It's immune to overplay for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in a league of tracks that I will just it takes you would literally have to blast this full volume for a year for me to get sick of it. You know? Um she Trey Cool killing it on the drums. Sassafras Roots is a fun song. When I Come Around, I can't help
Love,
but feel nostalgia for
I
an
love that
era
one.
I sadly missed.
That
Yeah,
to be fair, that is a song that makes me feel nostalgic. That there's a feeling I get when I listen to When I Come Around that reminds me of the early '90s. So
yeah, it makes me feel like the 90s high school experience that I unfortunately didn't get to have. Uh, but Coming Clean is the album's shortest track.
which
Eminem.
that's a little bit of a ahead of its time kind of track. Because Coming Clean is essentially about Billy Joe realizing that he's bisexual and
Yeah.
he's not just into to women, he's also into men. And I'm like, man, there wasn't a whole lot of tracks about that back then.
Nah, nah. Yeah, that's punk as fuck. Um, Amenius Sleepus. These last few tracks are quite short compared to Side A's cuts, but
Yeah.
you know what? It's punk. That's fine. In the end, is one thing I don't know. Sorry. In the end, up tempo, skank beat punkage.
Oh, were you
Uh,
doing Linkin Park?
yeah, I was.
That went over my head. I know they have a song called In the End. So does
They
Anthrax, but
do.
Anthrax's came much later.
Well, one of my favorite things I ever saw like growing up was this like parody of Linkin Park, and it really made me laugh. Uh, one of the lines was like computerized beats. We got him from the start. Chester comes along and sings this part, and then he's like, it's so funny. I'll have to find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, was it FOD acoustic one? Well, for a bit before it goes off, and then all by myself. Is
Mm-hmm.
one last little thing to close out on. You hear him laughing, and I like that. You know,
Yeah.
little sense of humor there. Honestly, this album is fantastic, and the albums that came before and immediately before and after Dookie are also fantastic. But Dookie is to me the crown jewel. Um,
I would agree. Also, my number one, I would go so far as to say that this is the Nevermind of pop punk.
it
Like,
is, yes,
I feel like this came out and it's a one of the albums that defined the '90s, I think, and it
yeah,
birthed shitloads of bands that sounded just like Green Day. I remember
hmm
even in Austin, Texas, when I started playing in bands around 1995, and we did kind of a punky thing, but not like Green Day really. But we started playing shows, and it was just like one of those things where every single band seemed to be a band that tried to sing like Billy Joe, do pop punk like them. I'm just like, this shit's everywhere, and it's because it's got started by a fucking massive album that is undeniably good, but also reached a really wide audience and turned everybody on to quote unquote punk. That's a thing
yeah,
that I have to say, because I do remember back in the day, and I remember even reading things now where people will say things like Green Day, Dookies, that's not actually punk. And I'm all like, well, let's break it down here really quick, because all it is loud guitars, fast music, aggressive, but it's got pop sensibilities to it. Isn't that
yeah,
everything the Ramones ever did? And
yeah,
people are
yeah,
very
like
quick to say the Ramones are punk, and I'm like,
yeah,
so there you go. Green Day is just better written, better recorded Ramones. And
yeah.
so
It's like that dude who was in Lou Reed's band and quit because playing a gig would have meant they sold out.
yeah. And so, like, I feel for them because they got such a backlash from their punk scene after this album blew up. And I'm like, fuck those fucking people. Like, why
Yeah.
is it considered uncool for a band to become successful just doing what they're doing? They didn't
Yeah.
get signed and then make a grunge album. They did Green Day and got massive. And everyone's like, we thought we knew you. Fuck you. Fuck all. If you've ever had that attitude, fuck you. And the horse that you rode in on or whatever, the skateboard you rolled in on. But yeah, because I think this album is amazing. And it's fucking it. Not only was it diamond certified, meaning it sold 10 million copies, it was that 2 times. It has sold over 20 million copies.
Wow.
Which is well deserved. And yeah, I just think it's a super important album in every way, and undeniably their best, even if it's not my favorite. I just think that there's just so many classic songs on here, and there's not a weak song on this album. So yeah, it's undeniable. Like, I really do think that, I mean, when you were looking at other people's rankings, was Dookie often number 1 on the albums? And I think it's like putting Master of Puppets at number 1. I'm just like, well, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Because and a fun fact about this album is it used to be one of my vocal warm-up albums when I was in bands. What happened? What's happening?
Nothing. I glanced over it. Sorry, there's so much activity going on in my little bubble right now. My Kiss poster fell down, taking with it several other posters.
Start using thumbtacks. What the hell are you putting them up with? Scotch tape?
Blue tack, sticky tack sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna need to start. Thing is, though, like, you know, I'm wary of sticking shit in the wall, and it's just anyway, it's not important.
That's a very English thing. Blue tack. It is not. We don't use that in America.
I have a ball of it right here. Gaze upon its blue tea. It's
look at his balls, everyone. Anyway, though, Dookie was a vocal warm-up album for me. I used to, there's a few different things that when I was playing shows, I would be driving to the venue in my car, and my warm-ups would be me picking something particular to sing to. And sometimes I would do the Smiths. I would do like Morrissey. I would sing that. Other times I would do Dookie.
Happy in the heights of the drunken hour.
But I didn't sing like that. But he's in my range. Billy Joe, like those are singers that sing in my range. And so it would be one of my vocal warm-ups. And it was also good because a lot of Billy Joe's stuff, there's a lot of syllables in a lot of it. And it was like, you know, it got me limbered up, because a lot of times we were the first band playing. So I would just show up and set up, and then half an hour later we were playing, and I was like, oh, I've already warmed up. I'm all good. Anyway.
Nice.
Most people don't give a shit about that at all. But to be completely honest, if you're still here, you are absolutely a peanut butter platypus. I'm going to cross off peanut butter platypus. Oh my God, I'm so close. I'm so close to having a bingo, but we didn't say the following could change order at any time. We didn't say that. So I don't get a bingo there.
I tell you what we are going to say, though.
What? Oh, 3, 2, 1. Yeah! We did it! Gonna cross that one out. Where's we did it? Right here. Snap still didn't get a bingo.
Let me see the card. I want to see this shit. Okay, so what do we miss? Toto. I suppose you hang on, wait. Metal elitists, punk elitists. You could tick that one off because we complained about gatekeepers.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna cross off the just elitist in general gets a cross off for that one. Okay. Yep. Sorry for folks in the podcast world. I'm showing my bingo card and what I didn't get to cross off.
Okay. What else we got? The early 90s, really the 80s. you could say we touched on that.
Yeah, but we weren't comparing how the early '90s had music that sounded like the '80s. Like there wasn't a. I think that's what it refers to.
Okay, well, we didn't have any snare with reverb.
Nope, unfortunately.
Under the gun, glam sandwich, dry production, Wayne's World. Did we say something related to Wayne's World?
Nope.
Wow. Okay,
not this episode. It's a weird one.
Metal fans ruining metal. The following could change at any time. No, actually, you know what? That's a pretty lean episode on the references. I mean, the other bingo is probably full.
Yeah, next time maybe I'll try the other bingo card and see if that one works better. But yeah, that's a thing. Comment or send me an email at oldheadpodcast@gmail.com if you think it'd be fun to play. Because I can probably figure out a way to get the cards out. And I think you can do on this website, myfreebingocards.com. I think you can set up to like have people play and like you can actually interact somehow. I don't know. My wife knows about it. She's smarter than I am with these kind of things. Anyway, so yeah, that was Green Day. We actually got in around the 2-hour mark. I thought we'd be pushing 3 for sure.
Wow.
But yeah, so thank you very much for joining us, the peanut butter platypuses that lasted this long, or if you're just a huge Green Day fan, and tell us how we got it wrong. I guess I don't know. But yeah, it's our first real foray into the world of pop punk, and I had a good time. It was fun. As
Dos
you
is better than Dookie. What are you talking about?
So yeah, sorry, I'm having some ice. All right. So yeah, like I said earlier in the beginning of the episode, we're going to take a week off because I will be out of town celebrating my daughter's 12th birthday. And so she doesn't watch these, but happy birthday. Yeah. And then we're going to be coming back with more ranking, but it's going to be not only something special, but also something that I feel has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And it's not Iron Maiden. A lot of people. What was the comment I saw in the last episode? If you rank Backstreet Boys before Iron Maiden,
yeah,
that immediately made me go, note to self, rank Backstreet Boys first.
I love it.
Anyway,
would that not be the most punk shit ever?
Hell yeah. All right. So yeah, that was absolutely fun. Thank you for being here for Cranked and Ranked Green Day. And in 2 weeks, we'll be back with another episode. And it's going to be fun for reals.
Cool.
This one was fun too. But yeah, we've got so much in store for this year that, we're going to get on to bringing you all of the shit that we have planned. Cause we have a list. So, 2 weeks from now, we'll get on to that shit. So thank you very much for joining us. Do you have any parting words?
New Metallica song came out. It's good. I like it.
It didn't hit me as hard as Lux Eterna at first, but now I think I might like it more. So
mine was like a couple repeat listens, and then I was like, I like the urgency of Lux Eterna, but I like the substance of this, Yeah.
My only gripe about it, and this is coming from a fanboy of everything Metallica has ever done. The Kirk solo was a little bit stock. It was a little bit stock to my ears.
I think it's fucking stock.
But that being said, I don't know if that song necessarily needed a crazy, fast solo. But there's parts of it where I go, I think he could have done that better. But anyway, that's from me. Anyway, yes. There'll be more Metallica talk later this year too.
There definitely will.
So yeah, anyway, that's it for this episode of Cranked and Ranked. Thank you very much for listening or watching, whatever you decided to do. And as usual, I'm going to throw it over to the illustrious Eddie Sparxx to take us out.
Later, dude. It's kind of a Billy Joe.
It was perfect, sweet, and to the point. You were actually frozen, and so I froze. You were frozen, and then I froze myself. Anyway, okay, bye, everyone.
Great.